Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
So, Big Boy was part of the...
Big Boy.
Right, exactly. This is my point. So he's called Big Boy. Yeah, why can't you just spell your name B-O-Y, like Big Boy, if that's what you want to be called?
They like to change it up by like changing the spelling or throwing in like a dollar sign.
Yeah, right. Okay. So anyway, I honestly thought it was Big Boy until I, heard someone say it the other way.
That's too funny.
So I guess that means I'm old.
You're listening to the Skip and Josh podcast with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
I'm Josh in Toronto.
And I'm Skip in Montreal.
In today's episode, is it better to finish lower in the standings?
Baseball players who need to shut up.
And football players wearing different uniforms.
But first, let's go to college basketball.
Okay, Skip, so we're back to our regularly scheduled programs.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even know what that means, but with NFL season over, I'd like to talk a little college basketball.
I'd love to. I'm always wondering where you're going to start the show. What topic is on the top of Josh's mind? What does he want to talk about first? And I took a lot of notes this week, and I didn't know where you were going to go first. But I'm happy that college basketball is on the top of your list.
So first of all, there was an exciting Duke game on television this past week, which I watched in its entirety, and it was Duke versus Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
And Louisville had a 23-point lead with about 9 minutes and 15 seconds left in the game. And at that point, I'm sure a lot of people may have turned off their televisions, but I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, there was nothing else on anyway, but I don't turn off games early because I once went to an Expos game that they were losing by 10 and came back and won. So I don't turn off games early. Obviously, I texted you during the game, and when Duke tied it up, I said, I really hope you didn't turn off your television or change a channel, and sure enough, you didn't.
What did I text back? I was just about to tell you exactly the same thing. I hope you didn't turn off the game.
So I didn't, and it was a very exciting game. Obviously, when you come back from a 23-point deficit, I think they put a stat up on the screen that it was the largest deficit that Duke has come back, or Coach K has come back by. I'm not sure. But anyway, a few things about that game. First of all, I think Cam Reddish is the best shooter on the team.
Well, we always knew that. But you're saying that as if he had some kind of tremendous shooting game. You know, he was 4 for 14 from 3.
But in the second half, he was much better.
He was.
If
but
he just took the second half.
He still missed a lot of shots. Yeah.
So obviously everyone thinks Zion is the best player on the team and he'll be drafted first in the NBA. That's what people are saying. And RJ Barrett might go right after him. But
you don't agree with that?
No, I don't necessarily. I don't agree or disagree. But but Cam Reddish is a better shooter than both of them.
Oh yes.
And Trey Jones is still the most important player on the team.
I think at this point it's Zion.
I don't know. Zion didn't play a bunch of minutes because he had 4 fouls, so he sat for a while. And part of the time that he was sitting was part of the time where Duke was making their comeback. Now, obviously, I know that he was a big part of the comeback. I'm not going to take anything away from him. And I think when they went on that 35-10 run, all 4 freshmen scored all 35 of those points, which really is no surprise because who else is going to score?
Right.
That game was interesting because Javin DeLaurier didn't play a lot.
No.
And Jack White didn't play a lot. And even Marquise Bolden didn't play a lot. But
Jordan Goldwire.
It was Jordan Goldwire that came off the bench who played a lot of minutes at the end. And I wanted to strangle him at one point because
he missed the layup.
He missed a routine layup. I couldn't believe that.
But then did you hear the announcer right after he missed the layup? He's like, he's 5 for 35 shooting on the season.
That's terrible.
No, I know it's terrible.
I did not hear that.
I think I've told you this story about Jordan Goldwire before.
How? You've never told me any story about Jordan Goldwire in your life.
If I go back on the podcast, I bet you I said the same thing 2 years ago. So 2 seasons ago, Duke played Michigan State in November. It was like one of the early season games, and they hyped it up 1 versus 2. Not this year, last year.
Right. Okay, I think I remember.
I was on a business trip. I was in Anaheim, California, and I was able to watch the game. And I was telling you, hey, I'm going to get to watch the game tonight. It's on ESPN. I watched the whole game. And it's one of those first games of the season where you don't know all the players. And of course, I had heard about Marvin Bagley and some of the players, but I never saw them. Didn't really know much about the team. And then in comes this guy, Jordan Goldwire, comes onto the court. After like 1 minute, he hits an open three. And I'm like, oh, man, we've got this crazy 3-point shooter, Jordan Goldwire. This is great. Meanwhile, it's like the only shot he's ever hit in his career. Right? So like I had these expectations that this guy was some kind of sharpshooter, and now obviously I don't have that expectation anymore. But he was instrumental in the win against Louisville.
Yeah, he played good defense, but how do you miss a routine layup?
I know. He wasn't in there to score. He was there to run the pressure they were doing, the full court press, and press the ball, and look at all the turnovers they caused, right?
Right. By the way,
that open layup was terrible.
I'm glad you noticed that. Another play that I hope you noticed. Listen, I'm not an NBA official. Officiating is very difficult in every sport.
Yes.
And pretty much on any foul call in college basketball or in the pros, you can argue whether it was a foul or not.
Right.
But there was one play where Trey Jones had like a fast break. He went up for a layup.
Oh my God. Not only was it a foul, it should have been if in the NBA, that's a flagrant foul.
That's exactly what I was going to say to you. And they didn't call a thing. Like, I can understand if it was borderline, but the guy almost took off his collarbone.
I know that the refs, especially in that game, they were letting it play. The game was very physical from the start, even when Duke was losing.
Yes.
And the big reason why they were losing because Louisville was just killing them on the boards and just basically out-muscling them and out-hustling them, right? But, like, that play with Trey Jones, I understand that the refs want to let them play and they feel like, okay, they're both going up, the defender's entitled to defend, and the offensive player's entitled to his space too. But he practically strangled him.
He practically did.
Right?
And at that point, Duke was still behind in the game.
It was an important play because it was potentially like a basket that was just gonna like keep the momentum going and even build on the momentum that they had, right?
I mean Duke only ended up winning by 2 points, so like every basket mattered.
Right.
So there was that play and the play that Goldwire missed.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So I let me tell you how I watched the game. I was watching the Celtics-Sixers game.
I heard about that game.
And I was watching with my son Matthew because he's a big Sixers guy and I'm a big Celtics guy, so it was like rivalry night in our house. But we kept switching to the Duke game. Then Duke was losing by so much, so I wasn't like paying that much attention to it. But the Celtics game ended, and then I switched to the Duke game for real, and they're losing by 20-something points, right? Mm-hmm. So Matthew's like, I'm not watching this. I'm going downstairs to play PlayStation. I'm like, Matthew.
Typical millennial.
The year you were born, you were a baby. Duke was in the Final Four against Maryland. It was a semifinal game, and Duke was losing by 19 or 20 at the half, and they came back to win.
I don't think it was that much.
I think it was. You could look it up.
Okay. I mean, I know they were losing by law, but I didn't think it was 20.
That's the game when Dunleavy kept shooting threes.
He hit three three-pointers in a row, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, so I always have hope that there could be a comeback. Sure enough, the Louisville Duke game starts to change and the momentum starts to change. And then they get within like 6. And I go downstairs in the break and I'm like, Matthew, they're down by 6. There's 3 minutes left. He's like, okay, I'm coming up. But look, what's amazing about, we talked about like, I don't know, I was going to say 2 episodes ago, but it's probably 5 episodes ago. Like the most hated teams in sports, right?
Yeah.
And we both agreed like, there's tons of Duke haters, and there is.
Yeah.
Right? But I can tell you, this class of Duke with RJ Barrett and especially Zion Williamson is changing things. Because every single kid my son's age, every teenager who follows basketball already is just flipping out about Zion Williamson, and everybody loves this guy. Right?
Yeah, the only thing about that is he won't be on the team next year, and so all these kids who like Zion are just going to follow him to the NBA.
No, but I'm thinking like all my son's friends are going to be rooting for Duke to win the national championship, and they have no connection to Duke at all, but only because they love these guys, right?
By the way, in any pool you enter, 90% of the people are going to pick Duke to win it all.
Oh my God, I was thinking about our March Madness episode that's going to come up like around mid-March.
It's actually it's like a month from today.
Yeah,
it's exactly a month from today. I think.
Yeah, Selection Sunday is a month from today.
Well,
tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it and I was like, oh my God, it could be the most boring bracket challenge ever because literally everybody's going to pick Duke.
Let's just hope no one's bracket gets busted in the first weekend.
And boom goes the dynamite.
Oh my God, imagine. That would be terrible. So, did you hear the quote? They interviewed Zion after the game, and he's like, "What did Coach K tell you in the huddle?" I mean, this is going around. Everybody heard about this.
I did, yes.
And he's like, "I don't coach losers.
Yeah,
Go out there and play hard, and I'll coach you guys to the win." I'm like, "Oh man, Coach K really said that?" But I guess he did.
By the way, did you know that it was Coach K's birthday on Valentine's Day?
I didn't know.
You know how I know this? I know this because I'm now on Instagram.
I noticed that you sent me an Instagram follow request. I was quite shocked.
Yeah. So, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
I was all excited to watch tonight's Duke game against I think they're playing NC State.
Yeah.
But of course, it's not on television, and I'll tell you why. 2 of the TSN channels are showing Sports Center.
Right.
2 other channels are showing the pregame to the NBA skills competition.
Ah, that's great.
And the 5th channel is showing the Scotties Tournament of Hearts.
Curling is the biggest interrupter. For all you American listeners out there, you don't know our struggle with curling. And I don't want to offend any curling fans out there. But it happens 20 times a year that there's a game on that I want to watch. And I turn on TSN and all 5 TSN channels have curling on. All 5. Mm-hmm. Right?
Well, this time there's only one of the 5. But you would think that they could, chisel out one of the 5 to put on the Duke game.
Yeah.
But no, like last week, for example, one of the TSN channels all day had college basketball.
Yes, it was great.
They grabbed every ESPN game from like noon until midnight.
It was great because I like to see some teams other than Duke and see what else is going on.
And ESPN does this every Saturday. So TSN could grab that every Saturday if they wanted to.
Maybe they're going to see how their ratings do.
I don't know. Anyway, by the way,
well, no, the big game coming up this week is finally we're going to play North Carolina.
Right, which is funny because Duke has played Virginia twice already this year, and they haven't played North Carolina once, which is weird.
Yeah, it is weird. So the Duke-North Carolina game is on Wednesday,
yes.
And I'm presuming that it's on TV.
We'll find out. You got any other college basketball news?
No.
Okay.
Football.
Do you want to talk about the AF?
I do.
The people who don't know what we're talking about, the AF is what is it called?
Alliance of American Football, I think is what it's called.
Did you watch the game last weekend?
I watched 5 minutes of the game, actually.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of it. I saw some highlights on social media, but...
But by the way, you know that there was a regular season NBA game at the same exact time, and the football game got the same TV numbers as the basketball game in the States.
I had heard that the football game had better numbers.
Oh, I heard it was the same, but okay.
Okay, yeah.
In any case...
What do you make of that?
Well, I don't know what I make of it. Well, everyone loves football in the States. That's what I make of it.
Yeah.
But here's what I want to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not the right person to ask, but you're the only person here right now.
Okay.
So you didn't watch any of the game, but hypothetical situation, and let me play this out. You take those same 2 teams that were on television on Saturday night. I think it was San Diego versus San Antonio or something like that.
Yeah.
Take the same 2 teams, the same exact players.
Yeah.
Except you play the game in December instead of February, let's just say. And the uniforms they're wearing are not those uniforms. They're wearing Dallas Cowboys uniforms and Philadelphia Eagles uniforms.
Yeah, it has a huge number.
And you're watching the game with the same players, like not NFL players.
Yeah.
Would you even know that it wasn't an NFL game? Is my question.
I don't know. I'd have to watch this AAF to see what it is and how good it is. The reviews I read basically were that it's very sloppy and the play was kind of choppy and all over the place. It wasn't very well refined. Mm-hmm. But yes, you're right. I mean, that's why Saturday afternoon college football gets huge numbers on all the American networks, right? Those teams are not great teams. People follow the jerseys, right?
Yeah.
And that's why high school football on Friday night in many, many states in the United States is huge with thousands of people watching, not on TV because those games are not televised, but in their high school stadiums, right? Football is just big. But now the other side of the story is we've seen this business before. Let's see what the ratings are tonight, and let's see what the ratings are the next game, because there's obviously like this curiosity factor for the first game, right? Yeah. Although CBS didn't hype it up at all.
No, I don't know if there is a game on television tonight, actually.
Oh, because they don't want to go head-to-head with the NBA.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think I was looking at the guide and I didn't see anything. I mean, unless it's I don't know, it's at a different time, or maybe it's only on the CBS Sports Network, not the regular CBS network. Well, I'm not sure.
If it's only on the CBS Sports Network, their ratings are going to be finished.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah. Because you understand why. Do you know this theory about, like, if you look at all the top rated shows on TV?
Yeah.
It's all like NCIS, CSI, Magnum PI, all these what they call the procedural shows, and they're all on CBS. Right?
Okay. I didn't know they called them procedural shows.
Well, that's what they call them. It's like, there's a crime, they got to solve it, they find the bad guy, how are they going to get there? But like all the different NCISs and all the different CSIs, like those are all the top shows on TV for like the last 10 years. And the theory behind it is that like they're on CBS, and old people, people who have cable are older people. Mm-hmm. They are like, oh, what's on TV? They just gravitate to CBS and they watch whatever's on CBS, and they don't go to other channels.
I see.
So like this AAF game could have had a huge rating just because it's on the network. And as soon as it's not on the network and it's on somewhere else, people can't find it and they don't. Well, we'll see. We'll see. But like, I mean, like I said last week, I hope they do well. I hope people watch. I hope they do reasonably well, Because at the very least, they're going to come up with a couple of rule changes that are going to creep into the NFL.
Oh yeah,
that's already they're. I mean, if it's just the kind of like the D League of the NFL where they're going to try out new stuff, then let's see that. Let's see that happen, right?
Yeah, that could absolutely happen.
Yeah. While we're talking about football, did you want to talk? I mean, I had 3 notes. Names. I had three players that I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
And I don't know if you wanted to talk about them all, but. So, Kyler Murray.
Yeah, he chose football.
You surprised or not surprised?
I guess I'm not surprised, only because he doesn't want to have to go through the minors. Like in baseball, he's not going to play on the major league team this year. In football, he'll be in the NFL this year. And I guess, people that age, they want instant gratification.
Everybody does, but yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, it's gonna be at least.
I would have picked baseball myself because, well, I like baseball much more, first of all, but also long term, my baseball career is going to be longer, and I'll probably end up making more money in the long term, and certainly my health is going to be better at the end of my baseball career than it would at the end of my football career. So that's why I would pick baseball. But he's 18, 19, 20 years old. He's not even thinking about any of that.
No, I mean, I guess, look, it's his decision. It's his decision to make, and he chose football, right? Yeah. Because he's, like you said, he's going to play right away.
Yeah.
Right?
He'll probably get drafted in the first round of the NFL draft.
I mean, he is only like 5'10". He's little.
Yeah. But,
I mean, if anything, like maybe Pat Mahomes is kind of breaking that idea that you have to be really tall.
And Pat Mahomes is not short.
No, but he's not 6'5".
No.
He's not like the next guy I'm going to talk about, Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco, yes. He's a little old, Joe Flacco.
Well, Denver signed him this week.
They didn't. They traded for him.
But the
trade actually isn't going to be official for another month or two.
Right.
Something like that.
It boggles my mind that.
I understand it completely. Because
really?
Baltimore wants nothing to do with him. They have their next quarterback. So now they don't want to carry this guy on the roster.
But why does Denver want him?
Because Denver, first of all, John Elway is not exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer when it comes to running a team. Great quarterback, but not, as a president, whatever. That's number one. Plus Denver, they just want to upgrade from what they have.
He's not an upgrade.
I think he is an upgrade over Case Keenum.
I don't know. He's an upgrade in height. That's what he's an upgrade in.
I mean, before he got injured, he was a decent quarterback. Yeah, I know he was. I think in his last 3 seasons, he's a 500 quarterback.
He's league average or better, or slightly.
But I
better
mean,
than
what's Case Keenum? He's also league average.
Same thing.
So I think it's a slight upgrade. But I mean, it's only a temporary solution because Flacco is old and he's got a year, maybe 2 left, and so they're going to have the same problem in a year or 2 from now.
Yeah, and then they're probably going to go and sign some other decrepit, washed up quarterback. I can't even tell you who it's going to be, but they're probably going to go and sign someone else. It's like they have no idea what they're doing when it comes to quarterbacks. I mean, why don't you just draft someone?
Right.
But the thing is, they drafted 2 years ago, or maybe it's 3 now. They drafted this guy Paxton Lynch.
Yeah, they also drafted Trevor Siemian and
right. They make this big deal like Paxton Lynch is going to be their quarterback of the future, and it's like he's nowhere to be seen. So obviously they kind of missed the mark on that.
Yeah, look, how many quarterbacks get drafted in the first round every year, and how many of them actually become good quarterbacks?
Oh, I mean, they all get a chance. Usually, if you get drafted in the first round,
right,
you get a chance. Maybe not your first year, but your second year, and then a lot of them just fizzle out, and they're like that's it. They become backups or they get traded. They bounce around, and that's it.
This past year, I think there were 5 QBs picked in the first round, and really only 2 of them were good: Baker Mayfield and the guy on Baltimore, whose name Lamar Jackson. Yeah. The others, I think there was Josh Rosen, who was nothing special.
Josh Rosen, I mean, he might be good, but he's on a lousy team. Sam Darnold on the Jets, also he might be good, but he's on a lousy team. It's very hard to tell, you know?
Yeah,
I agree.
So
the third guy is Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, so
I didn't know if you wanted to talk about it or not. I really have nothing to say about it other than to know, like, just to say, like, what do you think? Like, he settled with the NFL. He's settled his lawsuit, and no one really knows what the settlement is. It's all sworn to secrecy.
I was stunned when I heard this. First of all, I didn't even realize that this lawsuit was still ongoing, right. and I certainly didn't know that the resolution was going to come down yesterday. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I'm not surprised that both parties have been sworn to secrecy. Yeah, I do think that something will eventually leak out. Yeah, I don't know from which side, but something's going to eventually. Because no one can keep secrets anymore these days. You can't.
No, you can't. I read an interesting article this morning about it, saying basically the reason why it was settled now is because they were getting into this stage where it was going to go to court, and then people were going to have to start testifying. Mm-hmm. And having depositions, and the NFL didn't want that because it's like it was not that they admit that they were going to admit any wrongdoing with vis-a-vis Kaepernick, but that it was going to kind of expose the inner workings of the NFL. Like they were going to have to look at emails, and they were going to have to talk about phone calls and conversations, and like the NFL doesn't want everybody else to know what goes on inside the league. Right?
Of course not. But you know what? First of all, a couple of things. If in fact there are incriminating emails, how stupid are these people who are writing these emails and sending these emails? If you want to do something like blacklist a player and make sure he doesn't play in the league, you don't do it via email, because your email or your text message will be found eventually by somebody.
Don't they watch Law and Order? Every criminal on Law and Order has a burner phone. One of these prepaid phones that has a number that has no name attached to it, and you make one call and you throw it in the garbage, right? Like,
exactly.
Just learn from television.
Or like they see each other. All these owners see each other regularly during the year. Can they not just have a conversation? Yeah. You know, like at a restaurant or somewhere. Like, okay, don't sign this guy. Like, you don't do these things over email. But the other thing I wanted to say was, what I don't understand is one of the guys, Eric Reed, I think his name, he's playing in the league currently.
But he wasn't signed right away. He was signed only after the season started, 5 games in.
That's fine, but I mean, so he didn't drop his lawsuit after he got signed.
No, he didn't.
Okay. And so I'm surprised that the league is okay with that with both these things happening. Like, how can you be playing in the league and also they are admitting
the league of collusion.
Well, not only accusing, but they're admitting that they made a mistake. Otherwise, they would not have settled. If they thought that they were completely innocent, then they wouldn't have agreed to settle.
I guess, unless the money is just, we don't know how much money they got, honestly. The article that I read this morning said the only way that we might have a glimpse into the amount of money is when the Green Bay Packers, because the Packers are like publicly owned team, right? Like it's the city of Green Bay that owns the team, like the whole city, right? People own shares in the Green Bay Packers, right?
Yeah.
They're not like a regular team with one billionaire owner. So that the Packers every year put out like their financial statements and their public record. So people are saying that we may have a glimpse into how much the settlement was, because it may be as the Packers' share of that is going to be part of their financials. Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe the league's just going to pay. I don't know. Who knows?
So the other question I have now that, so Eric Reed's playing in the league.
Yeah.
Does that mean that Colin Kaepernick can still one day play in the league?
He always could have. He always could have played.
No, but now that he has settled this.
Well, I mean, the lawsuit wasn't preventing him from signing with anybody.
Okay, but if to me, and I'm not a lawyer, if the league has settled,
yeah,
that means they're admitting that there was some form of collusion.
We don't know.
Trying to prevent him from playing in the league.
Yeah.
So, but now if tomorrow, I don't know, a football team goes and signs Colin Kaepernick, doesn't that contradict the fact that there was collusion? Because if there was, then why is the team signing him?
I don't know. Collusion's impossible to prove anyways. So I don't.
Well, you know what? They proved it in Major League Baseball 20 years ago.
We're going to get to that in a second.
We are. I don't know how they proved it, but they did.
But did you hear this thing that Kaepernick was going to play in the AAF? But
I didn't. But why doesn't he? Or why doesn't he play in the CFL? Or why doesn't he play in the XFL?
Apparently, he asked for $20 million to play in the AAF.
What's the
and
highest?
Did you know that in that league, every player makes the same salary?
I was going to say, what's the highest paid plus salary in that
every
league?
contract is the same. It's like it's like sort of how the MLS started at the beginning.
Right. That's actually smart.
I believe every player makes $250,000 over 3 years.
Wow, that's not a lot of money.
Well, I mean, it's still a lot of money compared to like what some CFL players make, don't you think?
I don't know, like what's his name? Mike Riley just got a $750,000
I know,
contract.
but he's a quarterback. How much does an offensive lineman on the Saskatchewan Roughriders?
Probably about $75,000 a year.
Yeah, there you go. So I guess it's comparable. All right, that's it for football.
Okay.
We won't talk about football till maybe the draft, I guess.
Okay.
Right?
Sure. Well, it's free agent season in the CFL this week.
Yeah, I didn't pay any attention to that at all.
I didn't think you did.
Major League Baseball.
Do you want to talk about baseball?
100%.
Pitchers and catchers reported. Bryce Harper and Manny Machado.
That's not even what I want to talk about. Justin Verlander needs to shut up. That's what I want to talk about.
I don't think so. I don't think he needs to shut up. I think everything he said this week is 100% right.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad we disagree. So there were a few players this week that came out and said that free agency in baseball is broken and needs to be fixed. But Verlander was the first one to come out and say something. That's why I'm picking on him.
Right.
You know what, Justin? You're making millions of dollars, and most of your colleagues, in fact, I think all of your colleagues are making millions of dollars. So you need to shut up. That's all I need to say to Justin Verlander.
But the thing that he said that I agreed with is that the owners are coming out with all these excuses as to why all these free agents aren't signed. And really, the owners should just tell the truth. We don't want to sign them. But they're coming out with all these excuses like, oh, we're in a rebuild. These players don't fit our thing. These players don't fit our team. Like, they're just dancing around the subject.
Okay, well, owners and general managers have been, saying one thing and thinking something else for millions of years.
Yeah.
When you go talk to an owner or a GM about why didn't you sign this free agent or why did you sign that free agent? They're going to give you some kind of mumbo jumbo, but they'll never tell you the actual truth about what went on behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think Verlander and all the others need to shut up. Now, there's one player actually who I love, and his name is Trevor Bauer.
Yeah.
Not only is he on my fantasy baseball team, but he said something that I couldn't believe. First of all, he went to arbitration.
Yeah.
So he's going to be playing on a 1-year contract. And he's betting on himself. He's basically saying, look, I think I'm good enough that even though I only have a 1-year contract, I'm going to have a good season and I'm going to get another good 1-year contract next year and so on and so forth. So he's betting on himself. And he suggested that every single player in baseball should all have 1-year contracts. And I love that idea. It'll never happen.
Not in the best, but it's not in the best interest of players.
No, I know, but he's saying this. He is a player that is saying it. And you know what? It makes perfect sense. Like you and I, our jobs, we can get fired anytime. You don't have a 10-year contract for like $100 million. Nor do I. So why do you have these crazy contracts in pro sports? It's insane. Because what ends up happening, you sign a guy to 10 years, you're lucky if you get 5 good years out of him.
But that's in the interest of the players. They sign for 10 years and they could be lousy for 10 years and they still get paid.
But you know what? If you're actually good enough and you have a good season, then you'll get signed again the following season. And if you're not good enough, then you don't deserve that money.
If Trevor Bauer blows out his elbow this year, he's going to change his tune.
Well, you know what? Then when you are good and you are healthy, you need to actually be smart with your money so that in case something happens,
yeah, I know, of course,
you have something to fall back on.
Yeah. So I just don't, the whole Machado Harper thing, it really like, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. Like these are two of the best players in the league and spring training's about to start and they're not on a team.
Well, you remember the year that Tim Raines didn't play until May 1st.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know if that rule still exists where if a player isn't signed by a certain time, I think, and his former team wants to sign him, he can't play for the first month of the season. I don't know if that still exists. But I mean, this reminds me of that.
Yeah, but speaking of the former team, the Washington Nationals basically came out and said like that $300 million for 10 years offer is not there anymore. I don't think it's there.
You're right, it isn't there, and it shouldn't be there because this offer was there months ago. How long does it take you to say yes?
The problem is that the players and the agents, specifically the agents, have this idea, and Tony Kornheiser said this week on his show, and he articulated it pretty well. They have this idea that the numbers are always going to go up, right?
Well,
no matter what, the numbers are going up. The dollars are going up.
This is the first season where the numbers didn't go up.
Yeah.
This is the first off season that the numbers didn't go up. But even though they didn't go up, you still have like the Dark Knight of Gotham making $11 million after posting a 5 ERA last year.
Who's that?
The former New York Mets pitcher. I always forget his name.
Brian Harvey?
Yeah. No, Matt Harvey.
Matt Harvey.
Yeah. He signed with the Angels, I think, for $11 million for one season. And his ERA was, if it wasn't 5, it was pretty close to 5.
Look, there's 30 owners. It only takes one to sign someone.
Right. So even though the average salary may have declined this season, it's still enormous.
But the thing is, we've heard rumblings, and where there's smoke, there's fire, that one of these guys was going to sign with the Phillies, or maybe it was going to be the Yankees, or maybe it was going to be the Dodgers, right? Like, or the Angels. Like, there's teams that have money, but obviously what they're asking for is much too much, don't you think?
Of course,
we don't know what they're asking, but clearly it's too much.
100%. And so you might end up with Bryce Harper and Manny Machado not being on a team.
You think that they're that stubborn that they're not going to sign unless they get there? They're going to like, I'm going to take my ball and go home, and I'm not going to sign unless you pay me my kidnapping ransom?
Well, it would be pretty embarrassing for Bryce Harper, but even more so for Scott Boras, if they have to accept an offer from a team that's, let's say, 3 years, and even if it's 3 years, $100 million.
Yeah.
That would be like they totally blew it because they could have had $300 million for 10 years.
Yeah. They blew it already. I mean, I think they're not going to admit it. The agents on those players are never going to admit it, but it's already blown, right?
Yeah.
The same thing happened. The same thing happened with Jose Bautista and the Jays. Exactly the same thing happened.
Well, but
it's
he
just that
he
these
wasn't
guys
even good
are
anymore.
No, that's exactly it. Like these guys, but the difference is these guys are good and Bautista wasn't good anymore.
Right.
But in Bautista's mind, he was as good as Bryce Harper.
Right.
Right?
Only
he thought,
they're
going to give me everything I want because I'm that good. And then he found out, hey, well, I guess not. I read an interesting article this week though. And I hope I can like articulate it well. The whole way that this plays out now in the media and the way we're talking about it has changed. And you talked about it because Justin Verlander, and it's social media and specifically Twitter that changed everything because the players have a lot of power now. The players have not power, but the players have the power to tell their side of the story. It used to be back in the days when the reporters were riding the train with the ball players in the 50s, The writers would just write, like, they had total control, right? And basically the owners told them what to write, when it would come to contracts and stuff. It was all secretive. And then for all these years, the story has always been more or less on the side of, we never heard the players talking about we never heard the players' side of things, right? And now the players, who are very popular, players are more popular than owners.
Of course.
Right? Justin Verlander has a lot of fans. People listen to him.
It's because of his wife.
Right or wrong, people listen to him, So I just think it's interesting that the players have a little bit of the PR war on their side now that they never had. Although they're clearly losing because Machado and Harper are not signed, so it doesn't make a difference. Although Machado and Harper themselves have been quiet through all this. We haven't heard anything from them.
No, which is smart on their part.
Yeah. The other thing, are you finished with the free agency? Or
yeah.
Do you have more to say?
Yeah.
Did you hear also this week, because players were in the news tweeting and making comments about, and you talked about it last year, this idea of openers?
Yeah.
Like, when I say openers, I mean like a relief pitcher who will be called an opener.
Yeah, he'll pitch the first inning, and then the starter will come in.
Right, and then they'll bring in the starter.
Yeah.
So Verlander, like, also, and Garrett Cole on the Astros basically said, like, they don't want to be on any team that has doing these openers. They're not interested in being part of that.
It was Madison Bumgarner that said, if you have an opener in my game, I'm leaving the ballpark and I'm not pitching.
Exactly. Well, not only that, I think he said, like, he's going to leave the team. Like, you get rid of me if you want to do that, So I just think it's interesting, but we'll see where it goes. I mean, Tampa's really the only team that's talking about doing this, aren't they?
Tampa did it last year a bunch of times. And then a few other teams started to do it towards the end of the season because they saw that Tampa was having, like, limited success, I'll say.
Right.
So a few other teams started to do it. And I think even a team did it. I think Milwaukee did it in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken.
They did, but I don't think it was for the same reason. They did it because they didn't have enough players. Like, it was more of like, this is what we've got to go with it, know?
So, I mean, there are pros and cons to it. The thing is, if a pitcher is good, then just use him. It doesn't really matter when you use him or how many innings you use him for.
Yeah.
If a pitcher's good, he's good. And it's like they would have to change. There's a rule now that says if you're the starter of a game, you have to pitch at least 5 innings in order to get the win. So that's not going to happen anymore.
That's been a rule forever. That's been a rule.
No,
forever.
it has. I know it's been a rule forever, but that's going to have to change because if you have all these guys who are pitching just the first inning, then none of them are ever going to get a win.
Well, if this opener business takes off, the win-loss stat is going to just be even less important than it already is.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So Garrett Cole, his comments this week were very interesting. I just want to read the quote because I loved it, actually. He's saying, there's a human element here. You start to lose when you start rattling off the best mathematical equation to get the out, Cole said. I certainly wouldn't pay for a ticket to watch a math equation. Like, he's saying, like, basically, like, they're poring over the analytics and they're looking at all these analytics, deciding that this is what's best to win games. But I don't know. I guess we'll see where it goes. It's, like, certainly an interesting time in all of sports with analytics, and then teams like Tampa taking it one step further with this whole other strategy of
so Tampa, I think they had Sergio Romo started 3 games in 3 days because he only pitched 1 inning in each of them.
Right.
So obviously that's never happened, right? You never had a starter start more than 1 game in a row.
No.
But then, I mean, you recall, like, the year that the Giants won the World Series, Madison Bumgarner, I think he pitched, I don't know if it was game 5 or 6. He started game 5 or 6, won the game. And then in game 7, he came in and pitched the last 4 innings and they won the World Series. So
I feel like Bumgarner pitched that whole series every inning.
Yeah, it seemed like that.
Yeah. And it happened before also when the D-backs beat the Yankees. Randy Johnson and Kirk Schilling were basically always pitching.
So you don't even need a full roster at that point if you're using the same guy over and over again.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, if the guy's durable enough to go over and over, because we've seen some pitchers, they can't do it, right?
Right.
Yeah. All right, that's all I have to say about baseball.
The National Hockey League.
Okay, so I have one hockey note.
Whoa, really?
Well, I actually, I watched a hockey game for the first time in a while.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Canadiens versus the Leafs. It was a week ago.
And it was last Saturday.
It was the first Canadiens game that I've watched this season that I actually cared about the outcome.
Oh, okay.
And the Canadiens played well, actually. Unfortunately, they lost in overtime, but they played all right. And so I started to pay attention to the standings now because the Canadiens are in a playoff spot.
Yeah, they've been in a playoff spot for almost the whole year.
I know, but I haven't been paying attention. And I said at the beginning of the season, they'd finish, right next to the Ottawa Senators.
Mm-hmm. Ottawa Senators are a dumpster fire.
Right. So I thought the Canadiens would be a dumpster fire as well. So clearly I was wrong. But this is interesting. And maybe I don't understand the NHL playoff format, so you'll correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But
I will.
The way I see it, the Canadiens are better off finishing as the first wild card team.
You are 100% right. And I've been telling people this for a month, and it's like
rather
no
than
one
finishing
seems to
third
realize.
in their own division.
Of course.
Because if they finish third in their own division or even second or whatever, and they win their first round, they're going to have to play Tampa in the second round.
No, it's not just about playing who you're playing in this. It's not just about who you're playing in the second round. If they finish third in the division, they have to play Toronto in the first round.
Yeah, but I don't. That doesn't even scare me.
Well, it scares me more than if you have to play the Islanders.
No, I'm not even concerned about the first round. For me, it's the second round.
No, for me, it's the first round. If you finish in that first wild card spot, you play the winner of the Metropolitan Division,
right,
which is nothing great.
No, but I mean, listen, the Islanders clearly they didn't get there to where they are by accident. They're obviously a better team than everyone thinks.
Yes.
So I'm not saying that they're exactly a pushover, but the point being, you want to avoid Tampa as long as you possibly can.
You certainly do.
And if you finish second or third in the division and you win the first round, you got to play Tampa in round 2. Whereas if you finish in the first wild card spot, you don't have to play Tampa until round 3 if you even make it that far, whatever. So,
but I'll give you another what if. What if Pittsburgh finishes in the second wild card spot?
They're going to have to play Tampa in the first round.
Don't you think Pittsburgh has a chance?
No, I think Tampa's going to beat them.
No, I mean, of course Tampa's a way better team, but if you're Tampa and you played all year and you have this first overall and you've won your conference by 20 points, and then you look up and you're like, okay, who do we got in the first round?
Yeah,
Pittsburgh.
Well, this is why the NHL playoff format needs a complete overhaul. I've been saying that for years. Just take the top 8 teams in the conference, one plays 8, and so on and so forth.
Or go back to how it was in the late 70s when we first started following, where there was no East and West.
Right, 1 versus 16.
Canadians played the Oilers in the first round.
Right. Yeah, sure, I'm okay with that, but that'll never happen because of travel reasons. But if you're playing within your own conference,
of course.
There's really no long travel like for any of those teams in the East.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's it.
That's it. Before we sign off, remember, you can listen and subscribe to new and archived episodes of the Skip and Josh podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and of course, Spotify. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. We would love to hear from you via email, skipandjoshshow@gmail.com, via Twitter @skipandjosh, or by liking and following our Facebook page. As always, you can get all the links to everything I just talked about on our website, skipandjosh.com. Josh, before we get to we leave you with this portion of the show, I just want to remind everybody that to continue to go to our website, skipandjosh.com, and click on the Take Our Listener Survey, or you can just go to skipandjosh.com/survey, and please do us a solid and fill out the listener survey. We'd love to hear what you think about the show.
We leave you with this.
What do you want to end the show with? Do you have any little notes? Do you have any little tidbits? Any words of wisdom? Public service announcements? Things bugging you? How do you want to end this thing?
There are a lot of things bugging me, but the only thing I'm going to say is 2 Duke games ago.
Oh, back to college basketball.
Yeah, Alex O'Connell came in to play a few minutes.
Yeah.
And I noticed that he got a haircut, and it seems like ever since he got that haircut, he's lost all his three-point shooting powers.
It's funny because he came in that game, it was 2 games ago, or I don't remember when it was, and he made a really bad play. He made a bad pass that caused a turnover, and Coach K took him out and sat him on the bench. And I feel like ever since that play, he hardly plays now, which is too bad because they need his 3-point shooting.
Yeah, well, he should never have cut his hair.
They really could use Joey Baker, actually, even. They need someone that can hit a shot.
Joey Baker's not playing until next year.
I know, but they need someone that can hit a three, like, besides Cam Reddish. That's worth. Anyways, we should have talked about this in the first segment. I still don't like their three-point shooting and their free throw shooting.
Oh,
but I think
Duke's three-point shooting is like 300th in the country. It's terrible.
I'm
not exaggerating.
When you get to the tournament, like, I don't think their shooting is good enough, but the rest of their game is so good that maybe they can overcome. We'll see.
Yeah, free throw shooting isn't great either.
Yeah, no, that's worrisome. Did you watch the Grammys?
Not at all.
Not at all?
Not 1 second.
Okay. Well, I like to watch I don't like to watch the Grammys because it's mostly bogus. But I mean, of all the award shows, it's the best one because it's actually just performances, and they hardly give out any awards. I think they gave out like 6 awards.
Oh, okay.
And then the rest is just performances, although half the people I don't know these days. But a young lady by the name of Casey Musgraves won a bunch of Grammys. She's a kind of little country singer, but not so much country. So I checked out her album, it's called Golden Hour, which is what she won her Grammy for, and I fell in love with it. I've been listening to it nonstop on a loop for like 3 days. So it's not for you, Josh, because I know your style of music, and you will take one listen to this and say, what the hell is this? I'm not listening to this. But for everybody else out there...
Who are you, and what did you do with my friend Skip?
For everybody else out there, Casey Musgrave's album Golden Hour is definitely worth a listen.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll leave you with that.
Perfect.
All right. I'll talk to you next time.
Have a good week.
You too.